Welcome. You're listening to The Aligned Self, Conversations in Creating a Conscious and Abundant Life. This is Daniel Denovi. I'll be your guide and host. Let's see just where we can take this. Hello, friend, and welcome into this continuing conversation. This is part 3 of my 50 years of wisdom. Now, you're not getting everything that I've discovered over the last 50 years, but I'm hitting all the high points, a lot of the most powerful lessons that I've learned. Now, like I said, this is part 3, and if you haven't yet listened to part 1 and part 2, I suggest you go back to the previous 2 episodes and listen to those before you end with this episode. That way you'll just have continuity in our conversation. In this episode, we're picking up on the conversation where I talk about integrity, and integrity is not a moral stand. It is doing what you said you would do in the way that you said you would do it. Werner Erhard said, without integrity, nothing works. Okay, without further delay, here is the last part of this 3-part episode. You're listening to part 3. So integrity is big. The more you can align and show up as your word, you can literally recreate your life because you simply make a new declaration. This is how I'm showing up, and you align your behavior with it, and that becomes law because your actions or how you're being is aligned with your intention. Now, that's another big lesson. It's not what you do that's so important. It's how you're being when you do it. One good example for this is you can be in a relationship with someone and they can be doing all the right things. Doing the I love you. I love you. They'll say it every morning. I love you. And they'll give you a kiss, but there's nothing behind the kiss. They're doing all the right stuff. They might be making you coffee. They might be, but there's a lack of intimacy there. There's a lack of connection. It's how they're being about it. Instead of saying, I love you, it's I love you. And you can see it in their eyes and the tenderness and of their touch, how they're holding you, how they pause to take you in. See, you can do love or you can be love, and it makes all the difference. Considering law of attraction, you can do everything right, do all the practices, do the storyboard, do the vision board, make the affirmations, but it's in how you're being. It's how you're emotionally aligned. And I say being is the totality of how you show up in the room. Like when you show up, what's there? That's how you're being. If you're espousing affirmations, but in the background you have doubt, if you're holding doubt and saying, it never worked, it's never happened before, if you're focusing on the things that aren't working or the lack, that's how you're being. You're not being in the expectation of it. You're not being in the receiving of your desired intention. So how you're being is all important. There's a phrase, there's an alignment process. It's be the solution, do the actions, and you'll have what you want. Be, do, have. Going back to the idea that there's 7 billion plus people on the planet, no 2 people have the same brains. Everyone has their own point of view. They're all living their life or their own version of reality. So with that consideration, no one person has access to the truth. There is no one truth. There is no one way to do something. But how many arguments are there, especially in relationships, of trying to prove the other person wrong and prove yourself right? You see, everyone has a point of view. When you can give the other person the latitude to have their point of view, no matter how wrong you think it is, but they have their point of view, they have their ability to say and live their life from their... See, there'd be so much more harmony in our relationships if they could give you the unconditional acceptance of your opinion, your point of view. And you can give the other person your unconditional acceptance of their point of view as it being their point of view. Just think about how many arguments you would avoid by just accepting the other person as being who they are, everything they are and everything they aren't. Personally, I think that's the ultimate gift you can give another human being, is accepting them for who they are, seeing them for who they are, seeing their great attributes, the person that they want to be, and holding that out as your expectation for them. And I say that with a little caveat. I've gotten myself into trouble by holding grand expectations or grand visions for other people when they have consistently not shown up that way. I was not willing to see the truth or the writing on the wall. And I recently had a friend of mine who has had a narcissistic father and then a narcissistic ex-husband. One of the things that gets people in trouble with narcissists who are entirely invested in their own agenda and want your accolades, want your acceptance, but they don't give you any respect. She was telling me about her father who recently said, I'm going to send you your birthday card. I haven't sent it out yet, but I'm going to send you a check for $1,000. And she's like, well, that's very generous. You've never sent me that much money ever before. And he kind of offhandedly said, I'll send you that when you send me back the money I loaned you over the years. End of call. Leaving a very bad taste. Here, I'm going to send you a gift, $1,000. And then this little caveat, little dig, well, you've been less than responsible around money most of your life, from his point of view. And then a month and a half later, no card, no response, not responding to emails, not responding to texts, kind of like, I'm concerned. Is something wrong with you? Did you fall off the earth? And you send a message, I'm concerned. Is everything all right? And then they send back, you just want money, more or less. It's all about the money. No, I'm concerned. I haven't heard from you. And she's like, why do I bother? Because this is a consistent kind of response from him. Same with her ex-husband. Same with other people that are narcissists. See, when you hold the expectation, the hope that they're going to show up differently, yet they consistently, time and time again, show up disrespecting you, time and time again breaking their promises, time and time again making you wrong. You don't want to get caught up in the trap of expecting that someday they're going to realize just how wonderful I am and how wrong they are. Narcissists will not do that. They won't admit that they're wrong. In fact, more often than not, they will deflect that you're the person that has the issue. You're the person that is wrong. You have the mental irregularity going on. It's not them, it's you. Everything would be fine once you get on board. This is where we're not unconditionally accepting of how the other person is showing up. We accept them for everything that they are and everything that they aren't. And it's accepting that they just aren't showing up the way we want them to show up, and they probably never will. Now, this is where you set a boundary. Is this what I really want? And if they constantly disrespect your boundary or what you've determined is right for you, then you need to make the decision of cutting ties with them, because there needs to be a consequence for all transgressed boundaries. Boundaries are not for other people. They're what you decided for yourself that you will tolerate or won't tolerate. And if you state a boundary and the other person is not respectful of that boundary, that's information. That is a knowing that they do not have your best interest at heart. They're not interested in respecting your boundary. This is where I should probably mention another lesson that I've learned about people, and it's a very spiritual lesson as well. All behavior is intentional. We just don't make behaviors up. We don't do things for no good reason. And so if there's a behavior showing up in another person, there is a positive intent for that person. Their intention may have nothing to do with you. This is why you need a boundary. But there are no mistakes around behavior. We are intentional beings, and it always serves you in some way. Now, like I said, I've made a lot of mistakes over the years, 50 years worth of, 60-some years worth of mistakes. I've learned a lot of things over the time. I've worked with over 10,000 people in workshop settings and one-on-one, and I became extremely interested in the human adventure when I was 13. I wanted to be all that I could be, to realize my potential, and to know that at any given moment, I had no idea what fulfilling my potential actually looked like or meant. And so that not knowing always pulled me into the next moment, the next opportunity, the next learning experience, the next relationship. One spiritual anecdote you'll hear a lot is that you are a spiritual being immersed in the human experience. Many people have a very cerebral understanding of that. They don't yet have a knowing. I personally have a knowing. I've had an experience. And it's once I got that knowing, and I realized that I am more than my body, I am more than my gender, that I happen to be a man. My name, I am not Daniel Denovi. My name is Daniel Denovi. I am so much more than that. I am not my body. I have a body. And so my mind, I have a mind, but I am not my mind. I have thoughts, but my thoughts don't define me. I choose the thoughts. Just because I have a thought doesn't mean it's important. And just because a thought or an emotion flows through my system doesn't mean it's true. It is a result of a mental or physical process. And so I can choose a different response. The present moment is always your point of power. Your past does not dictate the future. It's kind of led you to where you currently are, only based on the decisions that you made about what went on. But once something happens, it happens. It's only relevant if you recall it from the past into the present, because the past is not real. The future is not real. These are constructs of mind. And we're going by the definition that if something is real, you can point to it, you can pull it around in a wagon, pull it out of your pocket, hang it on a wall. See, the past and the future are conceptual. Time is conceptual. We live our whole life in our head. Now, the words you choose create your actions. The beliefs that you hold, there's no such thing as a belief either. You choose a belief. And a belief is a statement of meaning that you have a certain degree of certainty that is true. It works from context to context. And if you have doubt about it, it's not a strong belief. Many of us have held beliefs that we no longer believe. I used to believe in Santa Claus and the Easter Bunny and Tooth Fairy, and I no longer believe in the Easter Bunny and the Tooth Fairy. Santa Claus, I'm not so sure about. But then again, once upon a time, I thought or believed that I wanted a Rolls Royce until I didn't. Your beliefs are flexible. They're changeable. You can drop a belief by simply dropping it. You can create doubt around it, find contrary examples in the world, in your experience, that do not align with that belief. And in doing so, you create some doubt around it, and you choose a different belief or an alternative belief that is more aligned with how you want to be. And you look for evidence to support that belief. See, we can make anything true. We can build a case around it, pretend you're a lawyer, build a case for a new way of being. Going back to the idea that you are a spiritual being immersed in the human experience. In this adventure, you are both animal and spirit. There is a physical aspect to your experience and an etheric aspect to your experience. It is a spiritual choice to be a human being. I've had a number of people over the years that say, this is my last lifetime, I'm checking out, I don't like being a human. I think you just don't want to be responsible for, this is a choice. This is an adventure to be a human being. One of the reasons why people have such trouble with it is they take it too seriously. They haven't decided to have fun with it. That's why you're not having fun. That's not why you're happy, because you just haven't decided yet to make it a condition of the adventure. Now, there is a tool that you can incorporate in your behavior and in your life that will give you access to a knowing that you are not your thoughts. You have thoughts, but you are not your thoughts. That you are more than your body. That is the practice of meditation. Now, I've been practicing meditation since I was 13. I began studying self-hypnosis, investigating deeper and deeper levels of trance. And meditation is very akin or very similar to trance. Now, when we talk about meditation, there's probably at least 20 different methods to meditate, different practices, different techniques. But by and large, the practice of meditation is essentially mind training, teaching your mind to go where you want it to go. See, too many people are caught up in being slaves to their mind, slaves to their programming, slaves to their emotions. Are you the one in charge of driving the bus? Or are you allowing others to drive your bus? See, when you take the practice of meditation seriously, you recognize that the mind has thoughts. As a thought comes in, you acknowledge the thought, and then you release it and bring your attention back to a tool such as your breath or a sound, a mantra. As you practice focusing on your breath, practicing focusing on a mantra, inevitably the mind is going to do what it does, and you're going to have a thought pop in. You're going to catch yourself, oh gosh, I've been thinking a string of thoughts for the last 15 minutes. And then when you realize that you don't make yourself wrong, the mind is just doing what it does. And so you train it by acknowledging the thought, acknowledging the emotion, acknowledging whatever's had creeped in, and then you release it. And then consciously bring your attention back to your tool, your breath, your mantra. Mantra literally means tool. It can be a word such as Om, and say it, hold it out, sustain it, or love, breath, peace, joy. You pick the word. Ideally, it has a positive kinesthetic, positive sensation associated with it. But meditation, just 10, 15 minutes a day, you might have a couple minutes of successfully focusing on your breath. And the more you struggle with reining in the mind, the more your thoughts tend to wander, and you keep bringing it back. A lot of people think that's an unsuccessful meditation. That is a very successful meditation because you caught the mind. You acknowledged it and you stopped it and redirected your mind to your breath. Well, after a period of practice, you're going to realize that you have thoughts. You are not your thoughts, that there is a greater witness or aspect to your experience, a greater level of consciousness, an observer. There is an aspect of you that observes your behavior, observes your thoughts. And once you wander past your conscious mind, you'll slip into a bliss of pure joy, of pure beingness. That's inevitably where you want to end up when you meditate, but the essential practice of meditation is learning to train your mind to go where you want it to go. If you don't get to that state of bliss, doesn't mean you're not successful. The more you can practice training your mind to come back and come back again, you'll accidentally slip into that state of mind. And when you go back to meditate again, you don't consciously want to go there because that gets in the way. Because you're aware that you're not there now, you just perpetuate more of not being there, law of attraction. So you start again focusing on your tool. And as you practice more and more, you'll find yourself in that state of bliss. Now, in that state, you understand that you are not your mind. You have a mind. You'll wander past your conscious mind, and then you'll begin to wonder, what is here that is me? If I strip away my stories, if I strip away my past, my programming, if I step aside from my mind and realize that my personality and who I think I am is just some kind of adaptation, that I'm so much more. If you wander past your conscious mind and past your current level of knowing, you actually discover at the center of your being, you're nothing. That upsets a lot of people. But at the center of your being, you are no thing. Nothing that can be pointed at, nothing you can point to. Can't pull it around in a wagon, can't pull it out of your pocket. You are no thing. Most of what you think you are is conceptual. But the beauty of it is in knowing that you are nothing. You can be anything. You have the greatest amount of flexibility. You are pure possibility, and you get to decide what you want to create. That's the meaning of life. That's why you're here as a spiritual being immersed in the human experience, to create the world the way you want it to be. It's a practice. Over the years, many people have asked me, what do I believe spiritually? What are my religious beliefs? What are my religious practices? My life is my practice. My spirituality is my life. They are so intrinsically and intricately and inextricably intertwined that there is no separation. And that is why when we reflect over all the bits of wisdom that I've espoused, some of them seem pretty practical in nature. Well, how you handle a disappointment, how you handle a conversation is a spiritual expression. It's how you're being. Again, it's not what you're doing, it's how you're being in the world that makes all the difference. Well, I think I've addressed a lot of the heavy hitters, the big hitters. There's so much more. There's so much more I could talk about, but it'd just be extending a conversation that can be picked up at another time. If you've gotten any value out of this, I would love to hear from you. You can go to yesdaniel.com and send me a message through the contact form, or send me an email at support@danovi.com. That's yesdaniel.com or support@danovi.com. Tell me what resonated with you. Tell me what you've learned. Maybe I missed something that you think is relatively important, and it probably is. I just didn't know it, or I just didn't come to the forefront of my mind in this conversation, and I need you to remind me. If this is your first episode in listening to me, I invite you to go back and listen to the past episodes. There's over 370 of them. Pick and choose the ones you feel most aligned with. Which ones resonate for you? The topics are, they're not necessarily SEO, but if it intrigues you, peruse them. Take a look at them. They're all about expanding consciousness, how to become a better manifester, how to be a better human being. They're all designed to help you be a better human as you're engaged in the spiritual adventure. Well, until next time, this is your friend and host, Daniel Danovi, urging you to follow your bliss. Live your life from inner signals. Be inner directed as you engage in the epic adventure.